Εξομολογήστε το Κύριο διαγραφός, αλληλούια, ότι στον αιώνα το έλεος αυτού, αλληλούια.
So would you like this? Would you like this to be structured, or you just want to go point for point? Or
I
you
think
prefer?
structure's better, otherwise we do lose the point.
What is your first objection then? Is it about the Quran saying that the Bible is incorrupted, or about Christ being God? What do you want to talk about first?
I'm saying, let's go to the next step.
I mean, the best you'll get in the Quran
we know that
is when it sends a warning to those who distort the scripture with their own mouth and claim it's from God.
Do you believe nothing exists? That's not the question.
He ran as
Does
always.
nothing exist?
Yeah, he's trying to tell an atheist that God exists, but his arguments won't work because they're not very well developed.
It's like that exam paper. Is it I don't know, or you know the answer, then you don't want to tell me. Which one is it? So you don't know the answer. What are you doing? Why you? I don't know why you seem insecure in a way. The reason I asked you
That's what I already said. It's a warning. It's not an
So
admission.
therefore,
No.
saying do fake scriptures. Fake scriptures is definitely clearly saying that it's fake scriptures made up.
No, it's so woe to, right? Woe is like a warning, right? So it's a warning against people who will potentially do the same thing, because that can be done even with the Quran itself. You can cover the Quran and claim it says X, Y, and Z, but it doesn't actually say it. So that is not an admission.
you
That
said,
the-
Because
you said nothing
if
is not. You said the
you
term is not.
are going word by word with the
Since you don't know, I'll tell you.
Bible,
Yes.
okay? So if you were to cover the Bible and say the Bible says X, Y, and Z,
Yes.
take my word for it,
Yeah.
okay? I would then have to say to you, hold on a minute, can I have a read as well?
Yes.
Okay?
So that's all I
So
say.
therefore, no. It's clearly making it say it's fake scriptures.
It's not, my friend.
It's fake. Woe to
My
the
friend.
woe to the-
Woe to those who.
woe to those
Yep.
who the fake scriptures say. Who the fake scriptures say.
Okay, I'll
No,
And say,
that's not
Fake
the.
and scriptures say this is from God, so that they might earn profit thereby, and woe to them for their fake, and woe to them for what they have earned.
Wait.
Let me show you.
And among the Jews are those who distort the words there. You should say,
Agree or disagree with that definition?
we hear and disobey. That's not fine. So show me your version of
Let me
your
show
understanding.
you. So it's a warning to those who would dare distort scripture.
Andrew, which part of that
So this is Surah
do you
279.
understand based on
I'm
my
going to go to my
absence of everything?
Surah 278.
So Surah 79, yeah. So it says, so woe to those who distort scripture with their own hands, then say
So
this
it
is from
doesn't
Allah,
exist.
seeking
No, I
a
never said
fleeting
it.
gain. So what?
Why? Wait.
Sorry?
A fleeting gain.
Yes.
No,
So
I don't
woe
know
to
if you
them
realize, but
for what their hands have written, and woe to them for what they have earned. Yes.
Okay.
concept.
So
Yeah,
ultimately,
that then clearly defines. Let's read that beautiful. Look. So woe to those
Yep.
who distort the scripture
With their own
hand. So
Yep.
therefore, they are changing the scripture.
not necessarily.
No. It's not just covering. It's changing.
They could be writing things and attributing
seeking
it.
a fleeting gain, saying,
Yep.
"Okay, I'm going to benefit from this."
So it can happen with the
So
Quran
woe
too.
to them for what their hands have written.
Yes.
Written. The ink is dried.
Yep.
Written.
Yep.
So they have written a
The
fake
same can happen with the Quran.
Either you
Written
agree or
for what their hands have written, and woe to them for what they have earned.
Yes.
So therefore, it's clearly saying there's been a change in scripture.
It's not saying there's
No,
been a
it's
change
been
in
what their
scripture.
hands have written.
So-
It's not saying what their hands have covered.
It's a
not saying-
report. It's
Pardon?
simply this is a report. It is
Yeah.
simply saying from Allah that
Yes.
if you distort scripture,
Yes.
then you're going to be in a world of pain.
No, but it's saying,
So
woe to those who have. It's
yes.
happened.
So the same thing can happen either with the Quran
happened.
or with the Bible or with the Torah. Now, This is not an admission that the Quran or the Bible or the Torah has been disrupted. That's not what it's saying. In fact, what you will have multiple times in the Quran is it saying things like, for example, the Christians and Jews have nothing to stand on unless they abide by their own scriptures, right? There's even
You're gonna have to bring evidence for that. You can't say
it's in the Quran.
No, but you can't. Then which ayat?
So everything you want a reference for everything.
We have to.
Okay, well,
Otherwise it's
in
not
that
fair.
case, if you bring up anything, you have to show me proof of it as well.
That's fine.
That's
That's
fine. So the Christians and Jews have nothing to stand on. I think it's in Surah 10. Let me get that.
You're amazing.
Hey,
you
man.
know more than Muslims.
It's just that they bring up the same objections, so it's easy to remember. Is there anything new? If it was, then I'd be surprised. But the veracity of a scripture is always something that they bring up. But my apologies. This is Surah 2.
So the Jews say the Christians have nothing true to stand on, and the Christians say the Jews have nothing to stand on. Although they both recite the scripture.
Yep.
Thus do those who know not the polytheists speak the same as their words. But Allah will judge between them. What was your point there?
So ultimately, it is saying here that Allah will judge between the scriptures of the Jews and the Christians. It's not admitting.
No, it's saying thus those not scriptures. Thus do those who not know speak the same of their words. No, probably not. But Allah will judge between them on the day of resurrection concerning that which they have used to differ.
Yes.
When you say that, you're saying that you're interpreting this.
There's no admission there of corruption.
You're
Just that
interpreting this,
the
saying
Jews have a
that
Torah.
you're interpreting this as that Allah accepts both of them as scriptures, and Allah will decide between them two.
Yep, and when they're different.
On their reckoning. Yeah, but they used to differ.
There's a Bible in my hand right here.
Hey, okay, fair enough.
I'm gonna study it.
They used to differ.
Okay.
Study it, yeah? Because you studied the
I would recommend. Sorry, one second, brother. One second. Sorry, I would recommend.
Is that the Old or New Testament, by the way?
So this is
Because I
so.
got that guy over there. I know
No
you
worries.
don't like
No.
him.
Huh? Who?
Bob. You've debated him before.
Bob? No, I'm fine with Bob.
No way.
I would say
Is the Old or New Testament?
this is the new.
Okay.
If you want to study it, I would say start with this, because if you start with this stuff first, it might seem like a fairy tale to you. So I say start with this first. Yeah.
Matthew, yeah?
So this is
Matthew,
this
yes.
is-
Yeah. No worries, brother. No worries.
This is not only Allah, as you said, not only does it include Jews, Christians, but also polytheists.
Yes.
And polytheists have no scripture.
Yes, exactly. So the only scriptures
therefore-
being talked about are
and
from the
then
Jews and
Allah doesn't
Christians.
say, but Allah will judge between them. He's saying all of them.
No, between the
Yes,
Jews
Allah
and
will
the
judge
Christians.
between them. No, because it includes thus
So
do
he
those,
will judge
thus
between
do
them.
those who not speak the same as their words. So the Jews say this, the Christians say this,
Yep.
and the polytheists say it.
Yep.
Okay,
But the
so
Jews
all
are the
three-
only ones that have the scripture and
all
the
three
Christians.
say it. All three say it.
But only two about
Allah
scripture.
will judge. No. He's saying here. Look, Jews say Christians can't. Christians
Yep.
say Jews can't.
Scripture.
Thus do. Adding on, also the polytheists say that they speak the same. They're saying we know better than you.
But
Allah
without
will
scripture.
judge, but
So
without scripture.
I'm bringing
so
this up with
two with
scripture.
scripture, one without scripture. They're saying, but
Yep.
Allah will judge between them on the day of concerning which they used to differ. So
Yep.
therefore, this is not a statement from Allah saying that Christianity is correct. It's saying
No.
all three are incorrect.
This is about the scriptures.
It's saying all three
It
is
is saying
incorrect.
that the scriptures have not been tampered with, but simply
no, it's
Allah
not saying
will
that.
explain to
Allah
us
would
in
say-
the
make it
version
more clearer. Allah would
on what
say-
we have been different on. That's
This
all.
does not say at any point, does it say, guys, the all texts are correct. This
So
doesn't say it.
it is not saying that they're wrong either. So it's not saying that they're wrong
But
either.
Allah
So
will judge
ultimately,
between
Allah
them.
will
It does
judge
say
exactly.
Allah will judge
So
between them.
ultimately, the
concerning that
Jews.
they used to differ.
The Jews hang on to the Old Testament, the
Yes.
Christians accept the Old and the New.
Yes.
So it's saying here that Allah will judge the Jews by the Old and the Christians by the New. So,
But also the polytheists.
yeah, by what they have received. Exactly.
So, but what are the polytheists received?
It could be a variety of things, right?
But they haven't received anything.
There are many kinds of polytheists.
This is talking about the Arabian polytheists pre-Islam, who received nothing.
Well, arguably they received something.
They received
just
nothing.
that they
They were
misconstrued
they were
it.
a
Because don't forget,
illiterate-
supposedly Abraham came
Yeah.
to them. So supposedly they did receive something.
No, it's quite clear. the Arabic world, mainly pre-Islam, was illiterate. There was a major empire, the Roman Empire, a major empire, the Persian Empire. The Bible,
the idea of illiteracy. The idea of
the library is
illiteracy.
absolutely full of books, but not that.
The idea of illiteracy is incorrect. Right?
Pardon me?
Because the idea of illiteracy in the Arabic Peninsula is incorrect. What you're seeing there is that they were something called formally illiterate. What that means is that they could read and write, because they had poetry, for example, right? And there's the poets, right?
It was a verbal tradition.
Yeah, but they also wrote down stuff too, right? But the thing is that they didn't use their writing ability for anything formalized. So, for example, they didn't write contracts in Arabic, or they didn't like write any deeds or wills in Arabic, right? They kind of wrote for fun. And even to this day, you see people who are like that, who are formally illiterate in that they have an alphabet, but they don't use it for any kind of legislative or like legal matters. Just for fun.
Give me an example that does it today. I'm sure it does, but who does?
Bushmen.
Huh?
Bushmen in South Africa.
Bushmen,
in
only
South
write
Africa. Yeah, basically. They don't write contracts. Yeah.
They don't write contracts.
Yeah, so they do. Well, maybe the more modernized ones will, but there are actually people who still live in the bush, and so what they do is that
would they actually need it?
What again? That's what the term means. Formally illiterate, right? They're not using their alphabet for anything to do with legal matters or marriage matters.
Where was their libraries full of the poetry, for example? If they only did it for fun, if that's the only thing they did, which is fine, I accept your argument. Okay, that's what they did. Fun poetry. Yeah. Where is their libraries full of poetry?
Why do you need a library if you're just doing it for fun? Why do you need a library if you're doing it for fun?
Because normally, if you have a skill, every human that has a skill utilizes it. So those are poets. They had a great skill
in poetry.
Skill. Exactly. We laugh at it now,
I think,
but they are the football players of that time. They are the
libraries.
Of that time.
So libraries are things that aren't pervasive in all cultures. Only some cultures had libraries, right? Yeah. Only some cultures thought to like amass all of the contributions that the people had done. Not every culture thought that. So clearly the Arabs didn't think about that.
Why did the Arabs then say, hold on a minute, after Islam, let's start having libraries then?
So now there was something. They had moved on from being generally formally illiterate to now they were actually, for example, writing decrees and letters in early Arabic or Syriac. So why? Because things have changed now. Now they had a reason to write wills, to write deeds, to write agreements.
They didn't have it beforehand?
No.
They didn't have a person die and to know who his inheritors are and what they need to get.
Even if they did, the Quran formalizes that, right? In a different way. So ultimately, before that, there was no indication that they needed to write these things down.
I struggle to believe your argument. Because I don't think any people...
Show me the opposite there.
The fact that it doesn't exist pre-Islam, that's in itself. The fact that we don't have libraries full of pre-Islamic, we know of Arabic pre-Islamic poetry, we do know it, but it's not as vast as post-Islam.
Yes, and I am simply telling you that that's because they moved from being formally illiterate to now majorly literate. That's all. It's not necessarily an argument to say that they didn't have these things because they were literate.
So then that goes back to the fact that inshallah, okay, I'm gonna go pray in about 10 minutes.
No worries. But ultimately,
that ayat you use in the Quran, you're saying that what was happening in the polytheist Arabian Peninsula is that they had scriptures, but they didn't write it down.
No, was that majorly, particularly in Mecca, they had a writing system. And it was likely majorly influenced by Syriac. Because Arabic takes over as the main course of writing in the Arabian Peninsula post-Islam, well, not pre-Islam. But unfortunately, I guess consequently, should I say, they weren't writing for any kind of formalized reason. They were just writing for fun. So you saw that in poetry, and you see that in rock writings.
Because bear in mind, they had a big battle with Muhammad ﷺ to prevent him from having Islam, correct? They were very strongly against him, correct? They were strong. They were very strong to the extent that they wanted to kill him.
It depends upon the time period, because don't forget, he taught Islam for 12 years.
No, he didn't.
In Mecca, before he left, right?
That's true.
But there's this view painted of the Arabs, right? that there were these like savage people
No.
who like buried their daughters.
They did do that, yeah.
And they used to like do all kinds of like idolatry and all that good stuff,
They
right?
did do that, yeah.
But then when you go to their treatment of Muhammad, right?
Yeah.
They technically allowed him for 12 years
But
to
why?
walk around and blaspheme against their gods.
But why?
And they didn't try and kill him,
But why?
right?
What's the
Well,
reason why?
it would appear that they were more tolerant
It would appear that you don't know
than-
exactly the reason.
than he was,
would appear you don't know the reason.
and they were willing to listen to his uncle Abu Talib.
Exactly.
Right?
You're getting closer.
But why would you think that Abu Talib will be able to stop all of them? There's only one man.
That's where you're missing the key aspect of the Arabian, Arabian culture, which only some Muslims know about. Okay, Arabs in that period were steadfast in their tribalism. So, the Smiths and the Johns, the Smiths stuck with the Smiths, the Jones stuck with the Jones, no matter what. Even during the boycott of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ in Mecca, the people that were boycotted against were not all Muslims. They were people of his family who were boycotted against just because they were members of Muhammad ﷺ's family. Full stop. They believed in the same idols as they did, yet they suffered at the hands of their co-polytheists because they were members of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. This is why he was protected in Mecca for so long, because of his tribe and the strength of his tribe, saying, yes, he doesn't believe in our God, that is correct, but it's our family member and we're not going to let you harm him, full stop. Okay? And it was at the end of the Prophet Abu Talib's death when they said, okay, now is the time, because the hands are going over to Abu Lahab. Abu Lahab, also an uncle of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. They said now the power is going to go to Abu Lahab. Abu Lahab is on our side, and therefore we have got the right, or we will make a way to kill him, to spread the blood amongst all the tribes, so not one tribe has come to fault. So they weren't that tolerant. No, they weren't. If they could, they would have killed him, but their own culture prevented them.
Well, first of all, I believe that they were all members of the Quraysh tribe. Or at least the Quraysh tribe was the most
They had
powerful
tribes
tribe
within them.
inside of Mecca at the time.
There were
But
tribes
even
within
if
the
what you
Quraysh.
say is true, well, the Quraysh, you can call it an umbrella tribe or whatever.
Yeah.
But even if what you say is true, when Muhammad came back to Mecca after the Hijrah, right? Do you think that anybody would have been able to carry on being a polytheist and then defaming Allah and Muhammad for 12 years, and he would have allowed this?
Repeat that again. When he came back
So
after the conquest of
when
Mecca,
he came back,
he came
do you think in that time he would have allowed somebody who was a polytheist
Yeah.
to walk around for 12 years defaming him and Allah?
No.
Okay,
Because
so
at that point-
very clearly the Arabs before that were more tolerant
At
than he
that
was.
point- At that point, the majority of the Arabian Peninsula had become Muslim, okay, and therefore Mecca had become majority Muslim, and therefore those actions were not allowed. But interesting you say that. You bring me to a fantastic point, okay. If we look at Muslim majority empires in the past, the Ottoman Empire, for example, or the peninsula of Iberia, the Andalus, for example, okay, beacons of knowledge of his period. Not today, of his period.
Only because
Okay?
they just
Majority
took Greek
of-
works. That was it.
Exactly, and you can
It's
thank
not
them.
because of them.
Beautiful, you said that as well. You can thank Muslims for doing that.
No, Muslims
Because
didn't do that.
if the
Christians did it.
If the Muslims did not convert that Greek text, that
Muslims
Persian
didn't do it.
text,
Christians did it.
no, but it wasn't maintained by. If it wasn't, if you look at the text, which Christians? If
Okay.
you look at
Jump
the text of modern, you say
Okay.
Western world, they took it back from the Muslims who protected it for so long.
Okay.
Because they were being lost.
So,
I don't want to distract from my point.
they hadn't been
My point-
lost, first of all.
My point was, in terms
Well,
of
I want to
tolerance-
address that. I want to address that.
You have that. Let me finish my point of tolerance, because you said Muhammad would have allowed it.
Yes.
In those countries, in those empires.
No, wait, stay.
In those empires, what happened is that the Jewish person was allowed to live a Jewish life under the Torah. The Christian person was allowed to live a Christian life under the Torah. In fact, after the Spanish took over the entire Iberian Peninsula, the Jews who were kicked out before the Moors, they fled to Ottoman Empire
Some-
and were given peace haven there.
Some
So
did.
saying that Islam
And
is
then
not,
they left later when Israel became established.
so
You know?
it's saying Islam is intolerant of other religions.
Very much so.
Is not correct.
Yeah. Okay, so here's what you missed out. When you talked about Muslims transcribing Greek text into Arabic, it wasn't the Muslims who did it, it was the Christians, in fact. Christians were in their cult and they would transcribe things from Greek into Arabic.
Under whose authority?
Because, sorry?
Under whose authority?
So these things were already available in Greek. and then they transcribed them into Arabic so that the Arabs could read them.
Exactly. So
Right?
who's authority?
So technically, we don't have the Arabs to thank for anything. The Christians already had the text, and they were the ones preserving it, first of all. So in fact, the Arabs have the Christians to thank, because without them, there would be no way in order for them. Only one. But without only one, English. Without the Christians, there will be no way for the Arabs to gain access into the ideas of Aristotle and Plato. And then all of the major philosophical, technological advancements that they made on the back of Greek text is due to the Christians. And here's the biggest thing. I always go through this where Muslims start a bit. You've heard about the Dark Ages.
Pardon me?
The Dark Ages.
A Dark Age is determined
Yeah.
by the West, yes.
So yes, well, it's a general term. Just mean like any long-standing period of like lack of innovation or stagnation or like warfare, right?
Okay.
In Europe,
Which is,
this
give me your period of Dark Ages.
absolutely in Europe, this lasted from the 5th century
Which is
up until the 15th century.
What day in the century?
It wasn't particularly a day, but a
year?
period. To do mainly with the fall of Rome in 440. Of Rome in 440.
Of not Rome.
Rome.
Not of Rome.
Rome.
No, not Rome.
Rome.
Against who?
Particularly the Western Roman Empire
The Western
against the
Empire.
Vangoths, right? So this was in the 5th century, right? So the Dark
Rome
Ages,
against the Vangoths.
yes. Now that's what characterizes the beginning of the Dark Ages, right? And this
I got a
extends.
different date, that's why.
That's fine. This extends all the way up until the Muslims are expelled from Spain. Do you know why?
That's because it's a subjective opinion you have.
No.
And you decided that this is Dark Ages.
The Romans actually pretty much eliminated piracy from the seas of Europe. During the Roman Empire, there were very little to no pirates because of the Roman legion and the Roman naval ships.
So you're saying
Islam
you're
brought it back.
The lack of pirates.
Yes.
The lack of pirates was what
Piracy back.
So right now, the fact that we have piracy is Dark Ages, then, isn't it?
Huh?
Are we in the Dark Ages now?
So piracy doesn't stop any of us from, for example, going on cruise ships or transporting goods across the world. But back then, it really did, right? So the reason
Why would
that the
stop
Dark
you-
Ages,
Why would that stop you from innovating within your own city?
because it's very difficult to do so, because a singular city doesn't have all the resources required to innovate. Often, like we do today, we have to import things from other countries, materials, drugs, technology, weapons, right?
Yeah, but
that was also something back then too.
It doesn't stop you from doing everything.
Well, it
still
does.
gives you enough power.
A great example of this, for example, is Japan, right? Who for 1,000 years isolated themselves intentionally from the rest of the world. So whereas the Americans in the 1800s had naval ships made of steel, the Japanese still had boats made of wood.
Yeah.
Because they'd isolated themselves and worked with what they had in the system. But then within like a factor of like 50 years after the Americans forced their way onto their shores, they completely modernized. Started building cities and skyscrapers and things of that nature, right? So when you isolate yourself or you're isolated, either due to matters of your own free will or because you've been made that way by things like piracy, essentially making it unsafe for you to go from like England to like India, for example, right? Without getting robbed. That exacerbates and
And you're saying
extends
that's
the
enough
Dark
to make
Age.
it the Dark Age. Okay.
Yes.
The period you call the Dark Age.
So Europe's Dark Age was actually extended by the Muslims, and it just so happens that when they
the key word you said
kicked
there,
them out, that's when it ended.
it's very key word you said there. So what you say as the Dark Ages is actually the fall of what you say Christendom in Europe. Okay, so the
No.
1453, when the Ottoman Empire conquered Istanbul, Constantinople,
It
okay,
wasn't
the
1453,
it was
was it?
the Ottoman Empire conquered in 1453. I know for sure. Ask any Turk, we know that number we
On,
do not know.
on
We
the
do know.
Suleiman, okay, fair enough.
Okay, it wasn't Suleiman, it was Mehmed II. Okay, so the reason why it was
Osman's
called the reason why it was called the Dark Ages by Europe is because they had lost a major city which they thought would never fall, and that was a big darkness for them. Okay, so then they made that the whole Dark Ages. But guess what? The world doesn't revolve around Europe. The rest of the world was cracking on. The rest of the world was innovating. The rest of the world was living life.
Dark Ages are a
Just
regional
because
thing.
Europe is in the Dark
They're not a
Ages,
global thing.
just because Europe is lacking in their innovation and their power and their probity and whatever, doesn't mean the rest of the world was. The rest of the world
That's
was
not what
very
I said.
powerful. And also, if you move on to the 1492, when the Andalus was finally obliterated,
When they finally
and
cleared
kicked
all
out,
the Muslims, yeah.
The reason why,
Then suddenly,
the reason why,
no more piracy.
It wasn't just that. No.
Yep.
That's hilarious.
What's the
It
connection
wasn't that.
between piracy and this?
Piracy makes it impossible for you to traverse the
wasn't-
waters
it wasn't the
and
case.
get resources.
No, I
It
know,
wasn't
but
the
why
case
are you
at all.
relating it
It was
to?
not.
Because I'm saying, let's say you've got a group, established empire, and they use piracy as a means of gaining wealth. How does that stop them from innovating? So they're robbing
No,
people.
it's not everyone else.
Okay.
Going to 1492.
Right. So
Okay,
then they don't have dark ages. Those people.
The Europeans do.
After the fall of Granada, okay,
Yeah.
that same year, Christopher Columbus was able to get the riches in South America. So
Because the
gold-
pirates were gone.
No. That's because the reason why Christopher Columbus went west, not east.
And by the way, he went to Haiti, not South America.
Okay, the reason why Christopher
Caribbean.
Columbus, well, the Caribbean. Okay, nonetheless, that period, that area which is rich in gold, the reason why it went west, not east, the reason why Europe was looking for west, not east, was because the Ottoman Empire had the monopoly of crossing the bridge. Because the Europeans were after the riches of Asia, and the Ottomans said, fantastic, come my way, but you shall pay taxes. That's why they went that way. Okay, so the Dark Ages for you is not necessarily Dark Ages for everybody.
I didn't
It's
say
Dark
that.
Ages for Europe.
That's why I said.
Okay?
I said the European Dark
that,
Ages.
that,
So
no, but you make it
was
as
the
if we
original
all felt
point there?
I didn't say that. I
What was the
said
original
that.
point when they
Huh?
got into the Dark Ages?
When they-
Well, Islam is to blame for it largely
For the Dark Ages of
in
Europe.
Europe. Yeah.
Okay.
And then-
The answer is yes,
Okay.
but that's because you guys.
So when you mentioned previously that like because of Islam you had all these like empires in Iberia
Sure.
transcribing of Greek text
Exactly,
into Arabic,
But I speak
technological
Turkish.
advancements.
Let me answer your question.
Wasn't great for Europe.
Well, I'll clear you this. Thing.
Okay,
I speak
and why
Turkish.
would you-
I
Yeah?
speak Turkish. If there was a Turkish text you wanted to read,
Yeah.
okay, let's say Turkish textbook 1.
Yeah.
You can't read Turkish, yeah?
Okay.
Now, if I translate it on your bequest, because you got the money and the power,
Yes.
okay, am I the one that should be credited for it?
Yep.
Or you?
The one who translated it.
Are you serious?
Yes.
So, but I wasn't going to do nothing. I was going to go make kebab that day.
Yeah, but that's
Yeah,
fine.
but it happened to
you
me-
have the ability.
it happened to
You have a
me-
skill set where you can
Exactly,
speak both
but
my
it's
language
not-
and yours.
It's not my intention.
So
I wanted to
it's
make
yours.
kebab. I
Well,
wanted to make
did I
kebab.
force you to do
stopped
it?
me.
I forced you to do it, or I paid you to do it.
Pardon?
Did I force you to do it or pay you to do
You
it?
paid me to do it.
Okay, then.
Yeah. So it's you.
For example, your I think your analogy is bad.
No, you're saying
because for
that
example,
it's only the Christians that
yeah,
preserved
it was the
It was
Christians,
Christian
right?
translators, but it
Now-
wasn't at their bequest. It was the
It,
bequest
it doesn't
of
matter whose
the
bequest it
Muslims.
is, because
It
for
is.
example,
It is.
you have paintings all across Europe, right?
Yeah.
Or even sculptures, right? Like Da Vinci, you have like Michelangelo's David, all that good stuff, right? These things were all commissioned by the church.
Okay.
But do you see how the ownership for the actual art itself is always attributed to the person who did it?
Okay.
Michelangelo's David,
okay,
right?
great.
Da Vinci's X, Y, Mona Lisa or whatever, right? So what you're saying is the inverse way things actually work. The person who does the job, aka the Christians,
Yeah.
who translated the text from Greek into Arabic, are the ones to thank for the matter.
I doubt that they would have said this is translated
Okay.
by a non-translator. It would have said translated by John Smith, whatever. for Arabic. It would have said it
not
like that.
necessarily. You
And
don't have
plus-
to write it
and
down.
Plus the
necessarily.
credit would always go to the original writer, Plato or whoever you want to call it. Would have said that's this person's text originally in their
Then
language.
you can't say that it was because of the
I thought
Arabs
it was
that it was preserved. No, it
You
already,
guys-
so it already existed before the Arabs
Exactly,
came,
100%.
right? So in order for it to even be transcribed, somebody was preserving
100%.
it, right? The Christians.
Yeah. Christians were preserved.
Yes,
Yeah,
there you
but
go.
it was
And destroying.
No, preserving.
They were destroying mainly.
No, they were preserving them because even the early church fathers, for example, were quite influenced by Greek thought, right? So they
Why
were
did
destroying
they-
them.
Why did, the
brilliant.
Western
Thank you for
world? Why did the Western world then go
And
back
Romans
into
thought too.
go to the Muslim
Sure.
libraries to be able to get back what they had no longer had?
When did that happen?
Well, after the kind of emergence of Europe, they started utilizing Baghdad was the main area which had all the texts, which they had to go and get it from.
Look, I mean, if Baghdad held some information at the
Not
time,
information,
good for
it was
them.
one of the hubs of knowledge that period.
Yeah, but there have been many hubs of knowledge. There's been the library in Alexandria. There's been Timbuktu. There's been like Greece.
There's
There's been
ancient
India.
Egypt,
Big whoop, man. Doesn't mean anything.
No, but
Like-
I think both of what you're saying, both sides, the translators, the original writers, the people that commissioned over it and said preserve it, because you've got other leaders that have said destroy it all. Yeah?
Yeah, Muslims.
No, not just Muslims.
No,
Don't try it.
Muslims,
Don't try it.
Muslims really like destroying stuff, man.
Really?
I like you. I need to go pray now.
All right, go pray and come back.
Muslim never burn anything.
Who are you? Oh, there you are.
Yeah, can I say you never addressed this point?
Which point?
About the intolerance of Muslims towards the Christians and the Jews.
Yeah, they're very intolerant historically.
In what sense? That's a lie. They never tolerate.
Jizya,
What's
blood money.
Before you continue, what's jizya?
We know what jizya is.
What is no, what is
Jizya, blood money, slavery. Yeah, I think I'll go with those big three. So the fact that you have to pay a tax with no defined amount just because you're of a different faith is inherently intolerant. The fact that the blood money for a Zoroastrian or a Christian or a Jew is lower than that of a Muslim, also intolerant. And the fact that you were allowed to essentially have slaves who were Christian and non-Muslims, also intolerant. So there you go.
Why the Islam stopped in Eastern Europe? They couldn't like stop.
Oh well, you know they got their ass kicked. That's all.
Sorry?
They got their butt kicked. Yeah.
So let's not talk about jizya. Let's talk about jizya, for example. Do Christians and Jews have to pay zakat?
Jizya is worse than zakat because zakat has a capped amount, but jizya does not. So the answer is no.
So it's 3.5% of your wealth. Right?
Exactly.
Okay,
But
so-
jizya is undefined. It can be as high as you want because ultimately the idea there is that you are subjugating financially the ability of all other groups in order to actually have the ability to be over the Muslims in any way.
But what did it mean? What did jizya mean? What if you pay jizya, for example?
And then
what did you
also
gain out of
we
it?
have dimitude as well.
What did you gain out of it if you pay jizya?
Nothing.
You
We
did. You sure?
so
you sure?
ultimately,
You sure?
if you call gaining not being like I guess sold into slavery or killed by the Muslims, right? Until you don't pay it, then you
didn't
know.
have to fight in war.
Don't pay
Yeah,
jizya.
but you see, you didn't have to fight in war,
You didn't have
but
to fight
then
in war and you were guaranteed
But then ultimately, you have the
fights.
Janissaries, for example, in the Ottoman Empire, who were literally just Christian kids, male kids, who were stolen from their parents, forcibly conscribed into armies, and made to fight for the Muslims.
That was the
So
jizya.
you're still wrong about that.
That was a tax, but bro, I'm
You're-
Eastern
you're-
European. What are you talking about? Bro, I'm Eastern European
The
here.
Janissaries wasn't jizya.
You
That's
don't
his
know my
history.
history,
That's
man.
his
You
history,
don't
man.
know my history.
You don't know Islam.
You don't know my
Islam.
history, bro. What we've been through Islam.
First of all, you need to relax.
My friend,
First,
I'm telling you.
first of all,
I'm telling you.
no. If you
because
don't raise your voice when you're talking to me. Don't raise your voice when you're talking. I'm trying to have a
Hey, hey, hey,
I'm
Don't
not,
raise
I'm
your
not,
voice.
Hey,
I'm
hey,
not fighting with you.
Enough.
I'm not fighting
No,
with you. I'm
Enough.
just saying.
Here's what's happening.
Wait.
right?
Let me
No,
finish.
pause.
If you wanna have a
Here's what's
conversation-
happening,
wait,
right?
if you wanna have a
You've come
conversation-
here
Wait,
and
I
you
did
want to
not-
talk to
Have I
me
been talking to
about
you? Did I talk to you?
Islam
Yeah.
being
Did I
tolerant.
talk to
I
you
am
peacefully?
telling you it's
Did I talk
heavily
to you
intolerant.
peacefully?
And so what he has a right to be outraged if you're
I'm gonna
claiming
be- I'm gonna
that
be
something that
outraged
happened to his people didn't actually happen.
I'm going to be outraged as well. If you raise your voice, I'm going to raise
Look,
my
I'm
voice.
sorry.
That's
That's my voice.
whatever. No, raise your voice. We can all do
I
that.
want to tell you, as Eastern European, never, we always been forced to give some sort of a jizya in order for us to not be
I
attacked.
understand. I'm not saying
so
this didn't
that's
happen.
not something like to give us. There was, if we didn't pay and let us live in peace, they will still come over our lands.
Same
and they
thing that the
even
Mongols did.
request, and
Yeah.
they even request they have to give children
Yep.
to train them as a janissary
I
to make the
understand.
Ottoman
I
army.
understand. The Janus, the point, talking about the point of Janus, that has nothing to do with religion in specific.
Yeah, it does.
I'll tell you-
Subjugating,
Can
man.
I just let me finish?
Subjugation.
Can you let me-
What's customs?
I know it happened. I believe it happened. I'm not denying it didn't happen. But what I'm saying to you is if you open the Quran today, you will never find the point where it says you have to subjugate them to make them your soldiers, this, blah, 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 so on and so forth.
Are you a Qurani?
What's the Quran? No, I'm a
Were
Sunni.
the early Muslims Quranis?
I believe in the Sunni.
So then you simply saying open the Quran is insufficient because you're aware that you open the Quran and Bukhari and Muslim. Like, you know,
They didn't have Bukhari then.
No.
When no, we had the Janissaries.
What?
The Janissaries in Europe when you had them.
Oh, that time?
Yeah,
Oh, sorry.
yeah, it's like the
Yes,
1400s and
it
stuff.
did happen, but at the same time, the whole purpose of jizya is you were guaranteed protection. You didn't have to fight
From
any
who,
wars.
though?
From the Muslim Empire.
So,
Listen, do you know-
why
don't
does
you
the
know
empire
you had
need
the-
to
you had the Roman
guarantee your
Empire.
protection from their people? Like,
No,
I'm
no,
looking
no,
for-
no, no, it's-
Huh?
do you understand?
From their people?
No, it's from
the Roman
the other
Empire.
Christians.
The
There's other Christians that were killing Christians.
Have you ever seen that?
No.
Oh, you didn't know
Do you
that?
believe that?
No.
Really?
That is
Do you
that is
believe
not what jizya was for.
No.